One of my main issues with this game, and I'm gonna say it right now, there's no butts. The butt slider doesn't exist, chat. Oh boy, Dragon Age, our favorite game. Hands down, should have been in every category in the Game Awards if you believe what Polygon, Kotaku, and everybody else is saying. It's hard not to believe them. Like, how could this masterpiece of a game that's come to form for BioWare not have swept every category? Well, let's look at this article. No, Dragon Age Veilguard wasn't snubbed for Game of the Year. That's crazy that a game that literally is just in name Dragon Age wasn't nominated for Game of the Year. You may be upset about Dragon Age Veilguard not being nominated for Game of the Year or the Game Awards. Unfortunately, it was never gonna happen because it's not very good. Thank you. I like this writer. A writer that's not living in Fantasyland? Arguably deserved to be nominated in a few categories, art direction, performance perhaps, and it doesn't even stand up to the games in the RPG category, let alone the Game of the Year contenders. Oh my, I love this. Sorry, maybe the next Mass Effect will be better. And I really do hope that BioWare actually makes a better game. But the reality is that a lot of the people that made BioWare great are gone. It's the new guard, it's the people that have different ideals and different opinions, and frankly are chasing different trends. They're not trying to make the old Dragon Age. They're trying to make this Fortnite Dragon Age that have millennial writing and awkward statements and just insert a number of reasons why you didn't like the game, let alone how many people have already refunded it. But hey, you know what? This game should have been a Game of the Year and not Wukong that sold 20 million copies in 1 month. Can Dragon Age actually say that? Can they say they sold that many copies? They can't. The Game Awards is a contentious event every year, but this year's nominations have been particularly discourse-heavy because for the first time in the show's history, a DLC pack has been nominated for Game of the Year. I don't like that, but here we are. Whether you think that's fair or not, it's really none of my concern, because right now, I'm more interested in analyzing a far more common complaint about the show: the snubs. Every award show has people who complain about their favorite thing of the year being overlooked. I mean, yeah, Warframe. I'm gonna say it right now, Warframe. And while some of the complaints have been entirely valid, one of them isn't. Dragon Age Veilguard was not snubbed. AAAs don't deserve Game of the Year for just being big and expensive. Thank you. Because if that was true, Skull and Bones would win everything. It's a quadruple A game. How can we compete against that? As much as we love Ubisoft, we know that's not the case, right? We know that's not the case. They didn't do a good job. It didn't sell well. It literally fell off the face of the earth. And I don't really care for Dragon Age Veilguard. I really wish I enjoyed it as much as some others did. And that's true. Like, some people like watching paint dry too. I particularly don't. But I'm part of that contingent of fans that have fairly disappointed with how it turned out. I'm still working my way through it, hoping that it'll eventually start being fun. Ooh. But it's not very good so far. There's little accommodation for role-playing, no tension between the characters or factions, and it ignores a lot of the existing lore. And as a standalone action RPG, it's serviceable, but it's no masterpiece. I very much stand by the comment that I've made about Dragon Age, is that Dragon Age, it still wouldn't be Game of the Year, but Veilguard would be a halfway decent RPG if it did not have the Dragon Age attached to it. It just would. It wouldn't get as much heat as it had. People would have enjoyed it more and just experienced it based on its own merits, rather than coming in with a notion of all the experiences they've had in Dragon Age. One of my main issues with this game is the redesign of the characters that have literally trashed it. And I'm gonna say it right now, there's no butts. The butt slider doesn't exist, chat. 0 out of 10. Oh, 7 out of 10, sorry, 7 out of 10. No butt slider. It does, but it's very small. A lot of fans still feel like Veilguard is only being nominated for innovation and accessibility category, well deserved in my opinion, is a huge snub. Among anger that it wasn't nominated for Best Narrative. Oh my god. Veilguard has some of the cringiest and just incoherent comments and lore in any game I've seen. It is the pinnacle of millennial writing, which is terrible. And as an elder millennial myself, it is garbage when you see that kind of writing. But that's the trade-off. Sequels have a built-in fan base and the advantages that come with it, but it'd always be judged against its prequels. Yeah, exactly. Best art direction. This one also is really... man, whoever thinks this, Dragon Age Veilguard literally looks like Kingdom of Albion. Amalur, that's what it is. Slightly better graphics than Kingdoms of Amalur, but dude, they look insane. Is that Amalur? Yeah, that's Amalur. There's no finesse or style in the writing of the characters. They all talk the same way. No solid difference in speech patterns or other witty dickhead. No, yeah, there's not. And it's just like awkward moments Which, if you write an awkward moment, you're doing it for a purpose. You're doing it to drive a narrative rather than I'm awkward for awkward's sake. And it's like, haha, I can relate to that because they're awkward and quirky. It's like, no one wants to play a game where one of the main characters is so awkward but not humorous. It's like Jar Jar Binks. That's like the best example. But best art direction, suck my left nut. I love Jar Jar. Oh my god. Veilguard makes me mad enough to start a YouTube channel to explain my previous Dragon Age works while Veilguard does it. Best performance? No. But people that think that Veilguard should have had best narrative, best art direction, best performance, and best RPG do not live in reality. The reality is that social media gives every voice a platform, whether or not it's good or bad. But to take anyone seriously that thinks that Veilguard had best narrative, I don't even want to talk to them. But the writer says they haven't finished the campaign yet, so I can't comment on its overall narrative, but I haven't been very impressed, especially considering how poorly it fits into the overall series lore. But Game of the Year? Come on now. It's not even in the same league as the other nominees in the Best RPG category. I got my own gripes with the Game of the Year Awards nominations, as is every single person in the world with the capacity to have their own opinions. Like, Dragon Age Infinite Wealth was robbed. But to say that Veilguard deserves Game of the Year nomination is like being mad that Marvel movies didn't win Best Picture at the Oscars. I like this writer. I actually really like this writer. The Dragon Age successful history of the Game Awards in the past, its immediate predecessor won the first ever TGA, Game of the Year, and Best RPG awards. It doesn't make its contender in 2024, with many of those more deserving games nominated are trying to break away from the typical AAA action RPG template. Neither does having a long and troubled development cycle. While I respect that BioWare's developers made the best game they possibly could with the resources given to them, the game exists against all odds. Honestly, I'm surprised that Dragon Age didn't flop like some other games. I mean, it did flop. There's reports that they didn't even sell 200,000 copies, and they had a 30% return rate from insiders at BioWare. They were supposed to have a launch party celebration 2 weeks after the launch of the game, but devs were worried because they had so many returns that it didn't really feel like a celebration. They had a launch party wake? Yeah. They had a wake. They didn't have a launch party. Honestly though, have you noticed that articles are starting to peel away from the typical bootlicking? I have. Well, at least certain websites are, right? Definitely diverging away from the circle jerk that is the gaming industry. But I think the ones that are realizing that are the ones that are thinking like, oh, you know what? The tide is changing. Traditional media is dying. Online journalism is frankly dying. You can look at the Google Trends and see that almost most websites are struggling to actually have the views they had 5 years ago. So I really feel like a lot of these writers are like, hey, can I actually write what I think instead of, the circle jerk that we normally have? And I'm glad we're starting to see them. But don't worry about it. The Game Awards are a glorified marketing show anyway, and that's true. They're literally the trailer awards. The nominations are a popularity contest more than anything. I stand with my point. The Veilguard didn't deserve a nomination, but don't worry about it. It can still be Game of the Year in your heart. And that's worth a lot more because your heart isn't presented by Jeff Keighley. Oh, okay. I love, dude. I'm just gonna link this article. That is amazing. Decent article that is not living in a just imaginary world. I prefer no BS, hilarious kind of writing. I do too. Honestly, like, I'd rather have like real conversations, and whether or not, again, you guys called me out. Like, I would rather have real conversations about what we feel is good and bad than having this weird tiptoe dance of a journalist a quote unquote journalist that's writing an article, but they have to really be careful not to piss off, Papa Nintendo, or they lose their ad rev. But yeah, guys, that's it for this video. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are about Dragon Age. I think we've said our piece. I really do feel like this title is very, very accurate. It didn't deserve a nomination. But again, the Game Awards is just a trailer award show with a, little bit of dev sprinkled in. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. What matters at the end of the day is how well did it sell? How well did people enjoy the game? What was the refund rate? What was the sales count? And when you look at that, Veilguard failed. It truly did. But let me know in the comments, guys, what you guys think about this. Chat, say hi to YouTube. We record these live on Twitch. Hopefully I see you there. And yeah, have a good one. All right. Bye-bye.